Mr. Deputy, before I begin my contribution, I would like to draw the public's attention to an important health forum by the Women's Association of the Free National Movement happening this Saturday. They are raising, like other groups, awareness to the very challenging issue of breast cancer, and are also addressing other concerns that impact the physical and mental health of Bahamians. They have a very strong expert panel to address this issue, and we'd like members of the public to attend and benefit from remarks delivered by Dr. Mildred Hall Watson, Dr. Gemma Roll, Dr. Sakhara, who will be addressing the issue of uterine fibroids, and Dr. Inia Theophilus, who will address the issue of mental health. Furthermore, Mr. Deputy, I would like to extend condolences to a number of families and to families across the Bahamas who have lost loved ones during this very challenging period. It is with great sadness that we extend condolence to the family of MCM Nesbitt Higgins, who unfortunately passed away and has left a deep hole in the lives of many Bahamians, but in particular his family. And we say to his wife and children how much we miss him, love him, but how much we stand with you. And also to the family of George Capron, who passed away, an outstanding Bahamian, a man of courage. We extend condolences to his family, and just over the last day or so, the passing of Levant Miller. We say to his family that you are in our prayers. And members of the Grand Bahama community also mourn, and we join with them in mourning the loss of Richard Stewart, Dwight Roxbury, Alice Meadows Sands, dear close friend of my family, Mildred Blatch, Joycelyn Roll, and Bernard Ballou. May their souls rest in peace. Mr. Deputy, we are here to debate a piece of legislation that is intended to tweak the administrative regime surrounding the financial services pillar of our economy. This government, like previous governments, have battled how do we fix the legislative regime that affects an important dimension of our national economy. No doubt this bill is a response to the blacklisting by the EU, which came as a result of this government's pattern of behavior. Late again efforts to consult the industry was in fact lackluster at best. They failed to grasp the current state of play when they arrived, and to devise effective proactive solutions to head off this blacklisting. They will not be able to explain away this dereliction of duty. No doubt, it is the rush to catch up on the ongoing work that was left in place by the last administration and dropped by this current government, as their focus and attention has not been on the very serious domestic matters that we face as a country. And while we appreciate being plugged into the international community and the need to address issues globally, even in their ranks, they seem to now acknowledge that they fly too often delegations larger than necessary, some persons who travel not appropriate for the discussions that are being engaged in. While at home, we face very serious crises that require focused attention. It is sad to note that after the blacklisting, 1 year later, this government just only, I think yesterday, announced its choice for EU ambassador, a post created by the FNM to ensure that the jurisdiction would always have its pulse on the EU and OECD actions and direction. It is worrisome that we hear, even today, attempts to deflect on what they should have done to head off or reduce the possibility of blacklisting. Inasmuch as it affects our financial services industry and foreign policy consideration, it is important that this administration consistently consults with local stakeholders and take note of work that had been done before. After all, the people have already pronounced the verdict on our administration. It didn't mean that they have rejected all policies and efforts made prior to us demitting office. They have been late again in consultation. It is necessary for us to take this opportunity when addressing these issues to help the public understand the relevance of it. And so for a brief moment, Mr. Deputy, I wish to restate some of the points raised earlier about the automatic exchange of information. This particular amendment is designed to make the system more efficient in the execution of exchanging important information. It is an agreement that deals with the exchange of information between countries without those partner countries having to request that information. And it exists to reduce global tax evasion. By way of background, Mr. Deputy, I note and I second the assertion by the Organization for Economic Cooperation and Development that cooperation between tax administrations is critical in the fight against tax evasion and protecting the integrity of tax systems. It is unfortunate that this organization, like a number of others from the more developed countries, do not take the same medicine that they wish to administer to us. The global economy has decided that a key aspect of that cooperation is exchange of information. As we consider the amendment today the government has brought, it would be good to recall the brief history of the automatic exchange of information. In 2010, the United States of America enacted the Foreign Account Tax Compliant Act. And these provisions are aimed at reducing tax evasion of American citizens and entities. In particular, the acronym FACTA, which captures the point that I just raised, is aimed at detecting U.S. taxpayers who use accounts with offshore financial institutions to conceal income and assets from the Internal Revenue Service. The substantive FACTA requirements for financial institutions were, in the main, adopted on the 1st of July, 2014. Anticipating that many countries' domestic laws would otherwise prevent foreign financial institutions from fully complying with FACTA, G20 countries adopted the automatic exchange of information as the new global common reporting standard for automatic exchange of tax information between multiple countries. As noted by the Securities Commission of the Bahamas, the Common Reporting Standard both maximizes efficiency and reduces costs for financial institutions to share the requisite tax information. The standard provides for annual automatic exchange between governments of financial account information, including balances of accounts, interest, dividends, and sales from financial assets reported to the government by financial institutions. And of course, it covers accounts held by individuals and entities, including trusts and foundations. It sets out financial account information to be exchanged, the financial institutions that need to report, the different types of accounts and taxpayers covered, as well as common due diligence procedures to be followed by financial institutions. On October 29, 2014, the Bahamas joined 50 other jurisdictions in signing a multilateral competent authority agreement to automatically exchange information based on Article 6 of the Multilateral Convention. This agreement, Mr. Deputy, specifies the details of what information would be exchanged and when and how it is set out in the document. Last week, OECD Secretary General Matthias Cormann suggested that the Common Reporting Standards has been very successful in the fight against international tax evasion. He reported that in 2021, over 100 jurisdictions exchanged information on 111 million financial accounts, covering total assets of 11 trillion euros, roughly 10.8 trillion US dollars. Mr. Deputy, let me fast forward simply to make the point that the Bahamas has, over both administrations, sought to head off any possibility of us being put on any list as a harmful tax jurisdiction. We have been an honest broker in this environment, and we believe many developing states like the Bahamas have been disadvantaged by the unfair playing field that has been established by far more powerful countries. So we have played ball, understanding how vulnerable our financial services sector is, but we have also been resolute in lending our voice to the international chorus of countries that do not appreciate the unfair manner in which we have been dealt with. We have, by and large, sought to be compliant and to assist in protecting the global financial system from misuse. Having said that, I certainly stand by the assertion that any attempts by this administration to deflect on what they did not execute in a timely fashion is not justified. Let me also say, Mr. Deputy, that we understand this amendment to empower the Minister of Finance through delegated powers to empower a number of agencies to function as a designated officer or designated supervisory authorities. And so several of them that were listed earlier have the ability now to better track, supervise those registrants under each of their remit, and also to share information to speed up the process or to increase efficiency. It is important, we believe, that now that the government is moving from one agency, pretty much the Ministry of Finance, to multiple agencies, that we guard against any abuse of that system, and that we make sure that there is oversight, that no one regulatory body or institution is acting unilaterally ultra-virus of what is intended. It's intended, my understanding, to speed up the process to make sure we are more efficient, but not that an agency working with a corresponding agency in another country all of a sudden is sharing things unbeknown to the Ministry of Finance and to the government that we may fundamentally be in disagreement with. And so it is important to hear in the wrap-up how this administration intends to guard against that. What is also useful and is to look at how other countries have thus far been utilizing this disagreement. And what we have seen by the Swiss is the Swiss have been quite busy sharing many of the data on persons who are in fact registered in their jurisdiction. So they have shared, I believe, with some 101 countries information on nationals from other countries who are depositing funds in their jurisdiction. We would like to ask the government if in the wrap-up it is in a position to say whether or not we have received information from Switzerland on Bahamian nationals who have funds deposited in Swiss accounts. And are there any members of the government or persons in the Parliament of the Bahamas who are included among those persons who have deposited funds, and what is the understanding and what is the understanding of the circumstances under which those funds have been deposited. And so we would also, given the limited time, let me just say we would also ask the government to be vigilant as we look to continue to create a wonderful environment, regulatory environment for cryptocurrency and other digital assets to thrive. The government should nevertheless pay attention to the evolving regulatory regime internationally that governs digital asset, and to make sure the Bahamas maintains its position as a leader in the international community regulating digital assets. Let me say, Mr. Deputy, the reason we are having this debate on this amendment, aside from the fact that the government does not have a robust legislative agenda, that it is continually on a series of breaks. We wouldn't say unnecessary because we don't know what all the issues are that the government is facing. But we are deeply concerned about the irregularity, the inconsistency of the parliamentary agenda. But we are especially concerned about the second Wednesday this government continues to duck in order to answer questions raised by the opposition. And some of my colleagues will put those questions on the record. But the government continues to duck the tough issues. They came, engaged in communications with a view of a one-way communication with the Bahamian people because they wish not to be challenged on important, ill-advised steps that they have taken in governance. So we're debating an amendment that's important that we support. However, what is true is that this amendment also will contribute to addressing the unfortunate situation we find ourselves in part because of this government late again agenda. Let me comment on several things that are of great concern to us. I heard one of the speakers before me, Mr. Deputy, talk about a lack of consultation. This New Day government is the last administration that should engage in any discussion about consultation. During our time in government, the present Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Minister of Education, waxed eloquent with respect to lack of consultation. Again, we just heard it again today. on the software that was chosen. The New Day government is the poster child for lack of consultation. Ask the retailers in the food sector in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. Ask the small food stores throughout Family Islands and in Marco City and in West Grand Bahama and in Bimini. Were they consulted by the New Day government? I mean, did they even talk to the member of parliament for the area about how these decisions would affect them? Did they talk to the pharmaceuticals? Well, we know the answer to that. The government has admitted that it did not consult on the impact of their decision on these businesses. This government has made business decisions that can potentially close dozens and dozens, possibly hundreds of Bahamian businesses throughout the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. They failed to determine the facts on how these businesses would be impacted by their decision. We understand why. They were under such serious pressure over the ill-advised decision around BPL, the failure to impact the inflationary pressures that plague our people, that they wanted to come once again with a populist statement, an address, as they reflected on their 1 year. And they then came with candies. Candies that taste good upon the initial consumption but causes cavities later. That's this government. That's this government. That's this government. That's this government. So we want to talk about compassionate and revolutionary. No, how about the candy man? They have failed to consult with the various government aides. Think about this. The government has just made some decisions that impact the bread basket items, Mr. Deputy, without even talking with the intersectoral committee in government that determines what goes into the bread basket mix. The consultation is not even internal. And so again, this government should not be talking about consultation. They are not about that business. The government can quite easily take VAT of all of the additional items they wish to put in the price control mix. Just take VAT of it. They've proven over and over that the VAT they said they couldn't adjust, they adjusted it when they moved from $300 to $400 as the exemption for those persons who were affected by the BPL hike. So they know they can always adjust it. They just adjust it when it's convenient for them. They don't care if it's inconvenient for the Bahamian people. And so, again, why not just remove VAT, not just of the bread basket item, but also of the new mix of items that price control now covers. This government failed to conduct studies. You're making a life-changing decision for businesses and consumers and don't even bother to conduct a study to determine what the potential impact is. In much the same way, they have not conducted studies to determine some of the other decisions they have made and how it will affect the consumer or businesses later on. So this government gets to make mistakes and then challenge the business community to bear the responsibility, to shoulder the responsibility of paying for the mistakes. That's why people have problems with policymakers in the Commonwealth of the Bahamas. We get to go ahead and make the mistakes, but then we want to tax some other folks in order to pay for it. Well, the public clearly sees through this. That's why the government, this government they dance well. And the chief dance that they know is not the quadrille, not the heel and toe, it's the moonwalk. They moonwalk on a regular basis back from decisions made when the pressure get hot. And right now the pressure tall on these roads. It's tall. And so again, the government needs to conduct studies in advance of the decisions that they make. Thirdly, when in government, we implemented a massive food program that sought to deal with the issue of food insecurity among Bahamians. And tens of thousands of Bahamians benefited from the food program. But when this government came to power, instead of improving upon the food program, in fact, we found dignified ways to try and distribute it. We accepted any criticism when it came, and we then pivoted to try and address the food insecurity of our people. This government came and virtually kept people. Well, if they did, they could go to get help. The truth is, I live in Grandmama. It's difficult because of the way tranches every government drip fed of in organization than deal with the issue of food security. Meanwhile, this government flush. They got money. Listen, this government, there isn't a function that they can't find for in the end. Colonial government. Most go to White Day in a ceremony. And so, yes, way to deal. The government put not and we ask you release online, not that because they are going to take serious is also true about that we know to tighten its belt. Multi-million-dollar economy and take a picture.
The document in onto my desk. So I have to my head.
And a sell off on the people. Would say this is not a good to skip meals. On what basis? Not taking the pick with world leaders about in first class. This means
It's straight to you.
Of international words. The government raised 10, almost 8 cents on the few there. The middle increase. There is I dare house and stand on their need to early in place 10.5 or 11 because I'm the Dr. Min had been returned. We have is and say they did not. I'm wrapping up. Unemployment is wonderful, but let's people etc. Let me get opportunities, but we can do it. Women children, and we have in support to take care of a tragedy. Permit out there on the front. Challenge my sister to speak in the government challenging, savaging women. So we are blaming the victims. Here are the women who are fighting, and we're saying they ain't doing nothing about remediating the state of affairs that we find ourselves in. And so I challenge this government to come clean, come to this parliament, do the work that you have been sent here to do, discontinue this runaway spending. It is costing us. Discontinue not making the decisions that need to be made now. You have NIB that you're facing. Let's deal with the situation. You have many serious issues.
Are you wrapping
serious
up?
issues. My last statement, I know it hurts, member for West End and Bimini. Many serious issues that we have to address, and we challenge you to do the right thing and address them in a timely basis. Marco City supports the amendment, but do not support the manner in which the government is addressing our financial situation in these inflationary times.
Thank you, honourable member. As many, the chair recognized the honourable member for Fox Hill.
To debunk this notion, I saw one of his former colleagues enthusiastically on video this morning going on about how the runaway spending and how things are running behind and all the rest of the year. The finance people assure me the revenues are up and the spending is down. Revenues are up and spending down. I say it again, revenues are up and spending down.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognized the honourable member for Marco City.
Can I just ask the member for Fox Hill if he would be able to lay those documents where the finance people have indicated that, so we can examine them, because that's not our understanding of what's going on. If he can lay them.
Thank you, honourable member. Yes.
Just one correction made, just a response to the member from Marco.
Members.
Just response to the member of the Marco City reference to the advocates, the women being attacked by and sitting idly and not defending. That is not true, Mr. Deputy. An apology was made. Women have been in the forefront of issues concerning them. They've been working and liaising with the government, working with the Ministry of Social Services, working with the Attorney General's office. Any error made in statement has been corrected and an apology made.
Thank you, honourable member. The chair recognizes the honourable member for Marco City.
West End and Bimini. It is our understanding that statements coming out of the office of the Prime Minister can only leave the office of the Prime Minister if sanctioned by the policymakers. And so again, again, I would like to know whether or not the statements were sanctioned.
The chair recognizes the honorable member
I think
for
that your
West Granma
experience
Home.
in government and the gentleman sitting next to you will advise that oftentimes things happen and you are made aware subsequently. And the same happened in this case, and an apology has been made. There are many.
The chair recognizes the honorable member for Fort Charlotte.
Thank you, Mr. Deputy Speaker. Mr. Deputy Speaker, the honorable member of Centerville framed the debate as a housekeeping matter. In other words, the honorable member for Centerville and anticipate this debate condoms lack of focus and lack of attention, fly too often, serious crisis at home, and late again. But the bill, the act, which was passed in 2017, is based on reciprocity. But he must know that the Bahamas has no income tax, and